Hi, good morning. This is Vaughan. This is precarious. I've got my iPad balanced just above the kiln. We'll see if it stays during the time I'm going to pack this firing. This is really for my beginner students who've got hesitancy packing a kiln, firing a kiln, and that kind of stuff. So I'm just going to show the simple one, which is a bisque firing, which is very easy, takes almost no time. My pots are all spread around the kiln here, so they're very easy to get to, so I can see what I have. Because the bisque firing, you can pack everything tight and touch each other and everything. So basically, it's just a matter of getting your pots and basically putting them in as close together as you can. Alright, so I have a big bowl, which is a planter, which I'm going to put right down there. And then you take a look at the other things that you have, and you see what basically you've got to do. And it's a good time to feel your pieces to see if there's anything sharp, especially if you've done garlic pots like this or something with cutouts. You want to make sure there's no loose stuff, basically. So just run your fingers around the piece before you put it in the kiln, because it's easy to knock off something now rather than sanding after the bisque firing. So it's just a matter of feeling the piece, running your finger. You can use wire wool to do this, but it causes a lot of dust, and we shouldn't be breathing that stuff in. So just use your fingertips. It knocks the bits off without, really sanding the piece. And just put them, try and keep them about an inch from the elements. In a bisque firing, that's not crucial, because it's not going to bubble the glaze on the piece. But if you're firing a glaze firing, you don't want to get pieces close to an element, because it can literally boil the glaze right at that point. And I've found that glazes sometimes dry out when they're close to an element. So I'm doing garlic pots in my studio at the moment. What I'm making are things I haven't made much this winter. Seems like I've made a lot of mugs, a lot of tankards, a lot of tea bowls, and I just did a whole series of plates, which I'm going to post a video of next, actually, so probably the same day as I post this one. So I'm just basically running my fingers over the whole piece. And now that piece is touching the pot, but it's also close to the elements, so I'm going to move it back just a touch. Some of these garlic pots are a little thicker than, rounder and bigger than the others, so all I'm doing is this, running my fingers around, just to make sure nothing is sharp. This one's a bit narrower. I'm leaving a space where my kiln props are. And your kiln props, it's very important that you've got the ones holding the shelf up on the bottom, because I have an element in the bottom of this kiln. Even if I didn't have an element in the bottom of this kiln, I always think it's good to have your first shelf lifted up about an inch from the bottom of the kiln. Because that would be a cold spot right on the bottom of your kiln in the center. So I actually put just a bit of kiln shelf thickness basically in that place under there, and so it lifts the kiln shelf up. But wherever I put those three things underneath there, and I actually have kiln supports there instead of shelf anyway, but then basically I have to do that all the way up. That one may be a bit thick. Nope, it's good. We can touch the pot so that's next to, so they will shrink, you see, in the kiln. And of course I got the one jar inside the other one. If I'm doing lots of bowls, I just stack them right inside each other, so I can put 3 bowls on top of each other in a bisque firing. It's good to know that nothing really warps in the bisque firing either. Okay, and I've got room for one more very narrow thing, but I don't know if I have a very narrow thing. Oh, and when I'm drilling the holes in my garlic pots here, I just use a drill and a drill bit. It's not a 1/4 inch, it's probably between a 1/4 and 3/8 of an inch for those, because the glaze will fill them up. Because this is going to be hard to put in, I'm going to put my hand inside and see if it fits. Nope, it doesn't. So that's when you need little things. If you have a little spot where you've got nothing, I have some little trays here that I can put right down in there, just to take up that space. I was saying in a video, I'm now bat washing the ends of my kiln props so they don't stick. That one may be a little shallow. If one is just barely too shallow, take your lid with the one with the knob on it and turn them upside down, because they're not going to warp. And I think I can get away with using that kiln prop, the shelf support, if I turn the lids upside down. Because the knobs on these pieces are really going up at least an inch. So let's see. I'll put that one there. This one over here. I'm going to move that one over just a touch because it's a bit tight. Making sure it's right on top of the support that's underneath there. And then, where's my stick? That's what I think we'll do. It's good to have a stick that you can put across and see if anything is close to that stick. That one's close, so I'm going to have to put another little prop on top of that one. I've got these little, I think they're a centimeter thick, maybe just about an inch, and I'm putting those right on top of the other ones. I actually have kiln shelf bits that I could do that too, but use the stick. Take a look again, and that one is now all right. I'm pretty sure that's way below, and that's the tallest one basically on here. So I think the stick is a bit long, but I've got a paint strip stirrer just to show you, since I'm telling you how to do things. I'll put that one over there. This lid has got to be turned over, and then I get a paint stripper stick. One of these sticks here. Yep, so now everything is, the props are tall enough. So good to keep a couple of sticks when you're doing this, and that should be good. I'm just going to check that one more time. That one yeah, it's very, yeah, I'm going to put it over here. And it's easy to make that mistake, see? Got to make sure that they're right on top of each other. There we go. Because when you've got gaps, you've got to be careful. Tricks can play on you. And it's easy because if the phone rings, anything happens, you get distracted and you forget. So just double check yourself all the time. It's like the carpenters who always say, measure twice, cut once. And boy, we've all learnt that one the hard way, I'm sure. Well, I'm looking right down. That's better, because now I recognize the equilateral triangle, and so it's actually easy to see. So look out for that one. Now here we've got some cheese dishes, or butter dishes. That's the garlic roasters and the planters. So I'm going to see whether I can get these down. No, that's going to be a little over. So when you pack in, you can move the pot over a little bit. and then see whether we can get this one in. It's going to be a bit tight there. So I've got those little trays. Usually I'm happy putting 3 things on top of each other. My wife makes those little trays, they're like little leaves. My wife doesn't know how to throw on the wheel, but she likes to do pottery. And this is hard to get that one in there. So let's move that around. Give me a bit more space there until I'm touching. There I'm touching both. See that one move, so pull back a touch. Now this will probably go down. There we go. Now these are tall with the handle, but I can't turn them upside down. So they're going to have to. Is that one going to go? Oh, it's going to be close. Yeah, that one just fit. Now these are all tiny, what I call kiln fillers. My wife Jackie makes all of these, and I love having them because you can squeeze them in to tiny little places. Because when you fire this kiln, it's going to take a lot of energy. So filling up every little corner. I mean, we sell these for $6, $7, $8, whatever it is, and so they're tiny little kiln fillers. And you know, get a bunch of those in here. It pays for the firing, and you've got to think economically about stuff. There you go. Because as the bumper sticker says, sometimes I'd rather be fishing. So. But since we make pottery, that probably refers to the guy sitting in the office. I'd rather be making pottery. You know, I mean, so we're very lucky. There you go. So that's a bit high because I'm pretty sure that's way higher than that, but I'm going to leave it. There's a gap in this kiln with no elements, so I always like to leave it a little lighter right in that position. That was a good sound effect, right? All right, and so put that down on there. Now be very careful also that you don't hit your thermocouples. These can wear out. They're easy to replace. I usually order 6 at a time when I order them because they burn out frequently. Same with relays on these kilns. You should always keep some spare relays and spare thermocouples. As well as a full set of elements, you know, because the elements do get thinner and thinner and thinner until eventually it won't reach temperature. Okay, then I got another one of these, and I don't think I'll get another level in here. Oop, I gotta get the stuff out of that one. So basically, like I said, just rub your hand around the piece, feel for anything sharp. The holes that I drilled in here always fall on the inside. Okay, so we'll put that there. There, and I'm wondering if I can have a little kiln shelf there. I got this one. Can I? Yes, I could fit that right there. So when you're packing, I'm not going to have any more, you know, big shelves in here. But what I'm trying to do, since I've got that big bowl there and it's too wide to fit on the same shelf, is I'm going to find a small broken piece of kiln shelf. When you break a kiln shelf, don't throw it away. These are the old kiln shelves, and I've always kept them. Going to break them up into small pieces because they're good for putting between things as well. That's right on the shelf, and I can turn that upside down. No, I don't need to clean that out. There's a little moisture in there, so I'll have to preheat this kiln for a little while. And then you fill it up. There we go, another one down over here. I'm using up all my recycled clay at the moment. So this clay has all sorts of junk in it, swept off the floor. In the winter we get bits of salt and gravel from the outside getting in the studio. Okay, so this kiln is ready to go. There's a little spot down in there. I don't think I have, or maybe this one will fit. I've got two slightly smaller leaf trays here, but I think they're too big. Let's see if I can get that one. This one will sell for about, I don't know, $16, $18. This firing will probably cost in wear and, I always think of a kiln firing, wear and tear on the kiln plus the electricity used. You've got to replace, you know, your not breakers, the relays, the thermocouples, the elements, and all that is wear and tear on your kiln. So I estimate a firing is about $95 every time you fire a kiln, if you count everything with all your expenses. So if you can put a few of these in, you can get up to $95 fairly quickly, and they pay for your firing. Whenever you have to replace something in a kiln as well, it's time. You're going to put an hour, 2 hours. Sometimes if you can replace elements, you're putting in 4 hours to replace all your elements. And that's labor, and that's work, that's money basically. So you've got to think of it, if you're trying to make a living at this, as covered by whatever revenue you've got coming in. But that was a bisque firing. So thank you for watching. I hope this helped. The only thing that you've got to be really careful of now is you do not turn this on high. You have to preheat, which means just turn it on low if you've got an old type kiln. You can set a ramp hold for preheat if you want to. What I do is I just sort of choose ramp hold with one segment at 40 degrees or 50 degrees an hour, up to 185 degrees, and I will then hold it for about 2 hours, that way, if there's any dampness in the pots, it will actually evaporate them all out without it getting above boiling point, which is 212 Fahrenheit. So if you're talking about that in centigrade, I would make it go up about 25 degrees an hour for the first just one segment, up to a temperature of about 89 degrees. Hold it for about 2 hours, that's centigrade, and then it turns off. And by then you should have everything evaporated out. Don't put wet things into a bisque firing, because you will get cracks. If you force them dry by drying really fast, if you've got a really heavy raku body, they can probably get away with it, but if you've got a regular clay body, the thinner areas will dry very fast and just crack open. So don't put wet things thinking you can dry them in the kiln. You can put slightly damp. This one's got a little moisture left in it because it was on the inside underneath there. But basically this one will dry in that little ramp hold segment I just told you about. And then the last thing you need to do is take a look and make sure nothing's above the height of the kiln. Nope, that's good. That one's very close to the top of the kiln, but it's below. And things will shrink in the firing too. They will all be a lot smaller when they come out of the bisque firing. That's your first and second large shrinkage rate basically, and then you get a third in the glaze firing. And then when you do, after you've preheated and you've got everything dry, then choose, if you're going to do a bisque ramp hold, you have to set that yourself. But if you do the regular, they have slow bisque, medium bisque, fast bisque in a lot of programs, and you can also find them a bit smaller, a bit less than that, or maybe just slow bisque, fast bisque. I always choose the slow bisque when I'm firing my kiln, because I want to make sure that the larger pieces are heated slower. The tiny pieces of jewelry you could fire fast, but I always choose the slow cone fire method if I'm just going to fire. And it's cone 0606 is a bisque firing temperature. You can try 01 for earthenware, and I glazed to 04. And for stoneware pottery, I bisqued to 06 and glazed to cone 6. Don't mix those up, because basically you will not be able to glaze your pieces if you bisque fire stoneware to cone 6. That's a big no-no. Okay, all right. Thanks very much for joining me, and we'll talk soon. Bye-bye.